Welcome to the Creative Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Caldwell, and I'm so happy you're here. Each episode, I take some time to chat with fellow artists about life, faith, and the impact of the arts. So fun getting to be here today with my friend Matthew Palfenier, and so awesome just to get to reconnect with you. Welcome, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so this is wild getting to see you face to face after what feels like a whole lifetime ago. It's wild.
Long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for those that are unaware, we were at Belhaven University together and kind of overlapped during our time there. And I'm excited to have you as part of this Belhaven Alumni series that we're doing.
Yeah, what was it, the 30 years of dance or whatever they just had?
Yes, 30 years, which is so exciting. Yeah. And it was a really fun reunion, got to kind of reconnect with some people, but this is a great way to continue that and to get to reconnect with some people that maybe didn't get a chance to be there for that. So yeah, thank you for being willing to share your journey and to celebrate 30 years of Belhaven together. So yeah, super fun.
Woo!
Woohoo! Exactly. Go Belhaven.
Go Belhaven.
So yeah, I will give you a chance to also kind of dive deeper into who you are, but just to give our listeners and viewers a little background. So obviously Matthew and I were at Belhaven. Post Belhaven, I know you were performing with Las Vegas Contemporary, which is going to be super cool to hear about. And then I know currently you are teaching and choreographing at Ovation Studios, right?
Yep. And that's in Maryland. So I'm out on the East Coast now. We're like 35 minutes or so north of DC proper. So DC for everyone else.
Nice. Exactly. For people like me that may not know the detail there. That's awesome though. So you've been like on both ends of the US, both edges. Yeah. So that'll be kind of interesting to hear a little bit maybe about some of the similarities and differences in the dance culture.
So different. Everywhere I go, and I've we'll talk about it more, but like growing up, I was all over the place. And then my dance journey has continued to take me just kind of like all over the place.
Yeah.
And every place you go has like such a different context and kind of like, it's like starting over every single time.
Wow. Yeah. I can imagine just a little bit that I've done with travel. It's like, it's true. Even within the same state, it can have a very different feel in different cities or towns. So I'm curious, how did you first get into the arts, and then how did dance kind of come into that picture?
Sure. So the speed run version of this, which is really chaotic, so sorry, is basically I've been performing my whole life. I, as a young person, was involved in theater. I was involved in music. Like music was a big part of my household. So my mom and my dad both sang, were like involved in like church choir, and my mom was like a really legit soprano. So
ooh, nice.
Who like eventually transitioned into education, and then my dad was a business guy who just had a lot of music appreciation. So whenever I'd go visit him, he would turn on like all these albums, and we'd just like sit in his home theater and listen to stuff, or we'd watch like Pink Floyd The Wall, or we would, so he exposed me to a lot of music. But I grew up singing in kind of a community choir when I was living in Washington State. And that was from like the 6th grade through high school. I picked up violin and played for several years. Because I was doing musical performance, I got involved with musicals. So when I was in high school, I did Guys and Dolls my senior year.
Yes.
And Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Oh, yes.
So I did that. And that was kind of the first time where I had to like memorize choreography. I'm already out of order. It's fine. When
it's
I was
a
young kid, the first time I ever saw ballet was Pacific Northwest Ballet's The Nutcracker motion picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was publicized like on TV. They would broadcast it every Christmas, and I would watch it year round. I think that and then one like tape. We had one tape of my sister who did a year of dance at a small studio when we lived in Cincinnati, Ohio. I would watch her in class and be moving on the side. And then the teacher at some point, like I found this out years and years later, that my mom was like, the teacher came up to me and was like, oh, your son like should do dance. And like at the time, she kind of just like, it was an in and out comment, you know?
Yeah, she
Didn't really think
like
anything of it. But then fast forward again to high school, and I'm doing these musicals where you're doing choreography, and people were like, do you dance? And I was like, no, like I've never danced before. Because the choreographers were like, huh, okay.
Like, you're picking up on this really well. Yeah.
And then like a whole nother gap, you know, graduated from high school, went to Michigan, did my first 2 years of college at a small Bible college there, dropped out essentially, and then met a kid at the church that I was going to who was a hip hop instructor at a really tiny ballet school called Hearts and Step Christian Dance Academy, and was literally there for 30 minutes. Like we were just hanging out because it was like open house day or something. And he was like, oh, you should show them like how flexible you are, because I was like really into yoga and stretching and stuff.
Yeah.
And James Martin, who was one of the instructors there, walked by and just happened to see me when I had my leg up. And he was like, who is that? And so he came into the room, introduced himself, and then was like, where are you dancing? And I was like, nowhere. And he was like, why not? And I was like, because I've never done it before. And he was like, we'll see you on Thursday, basically.
Nice,
and so
nice.
I did a year of recreational Afro jazz, essentially was like the first class that I took. And I did that for a year. And then they pushed me basically into ballet.
Okay.
So the second year, this was probably like 2007, 2008 in there somewhere. They were like, you need to take ballet. And I was like, I have no interest in ballet. I'm not doing that. And they were like, no, you are. And then I did literally 6 months maybe of ballet. And that's when Bonnie Ringlib from Masterworks Festival came and held an audition. The worst audition. Like literally it was the first audition I'd ever taken, and it was horrible. Like I remember like facing the wrong way at the bar, kicking people during mid combination. Don't know. It was terrible.
I feel like, yeah, that's always, those audition stories are always the best.
Oh yeah, it was a mess. But I got an acceptance letter, and then through like a whole slew of like weird things, like my car was broken down, there was no way I was going to be able to make it, and like strangers showed up on a street corner with an envelope of money in it and gave it to me and said, this is for your car and you're going to this dance thing. And so
that is so cool.
I was like, this is clearly something that the Lord is leading, and I'm going to go. So I drove out of state, went to Masterworks Festival, which is, I think, where we actually met.
Yes, I think so. It was that summer.
Yes. And I'm trying to think. Was that the year? Because Steve Rooks was there, because I was part of the modern program. Caleb Mitchell was there. Clara Cravey was there.
Yes, that's right.
Was Sean Stevens there that year?
I think Sean Stevens.
She was New York City
Ballet. I think so, because
I think she was there.
I'm pretty sure that's where I first met her as well. And then maybe did she come visit Belhaven at some point?
I think she did at some point.
But I feel like we met her first at Masterworks.
Masterworks Festival was where we met her first. Yes. And so that was my first, like, I'm dancing with like kids who are on, like, 14-year-olds who are on point, because that's where like Jenny Bobo was there.
Yes.
And we're doing these incredible stuff. And I was like, I'm 23. I have no idea what I'm doing. No idea what I'm doing. And I got to the end of that, and I swear, Caleb Mitchell popped out of a bush by my car. He's
literally
a big guy.
That's so Caleb. Sorry, I just...
Like,
awesome.
You can't miss him from a mile away. He's this huge dude. And he literally popped out of a bush, like, as I'm like opening my car door to like leave the thing, and he was like, oh hey, like, are you interested in pursuing dance further? And I was like, well, sure, like, I feel like this was a good experience, whatever. And he was like, okay, well, I'm actually an adjunct professor at Belhaven University. We have scholarships available. but you have to like talk to the admission office like today because class starts in 2 weeks.
Whoa.
And so I went home and I fasted for 5 days and was just like, is this what I'm doing right now? And then I just started getting these emails being like, don't worry about this thing in your tuition. It's been covered. There's a scholarship available. Oh, there's this thing.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, I was driving to Mississippi and like, it was wild. Like,
that is wild.
Couldn't have planned it if I had tried.
Like, exactly. I love how the Lord just works like that, you know, and just all those pieces along the way. And the ones that are really obvious, like the person just being like, here's money for your car and you're going to the dance thing or whatever. And then, yeah, just how he orchestrates those moments is so cool. But yes, That is so right. So yeah, we met at Masterworks. And then I guess 2 weeks later, there we were at Belhaven.
as a freshman.
Yes. What was your experience like coming in and kind of through your time at Belhaven?
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. I was talking with kids about this in class yesterday because we kind of got derailed, but we were just talking about like college programs and like what do you do in a dance college program, you know? Because a lot of my students are like getting to that place where they're thinking about colleges and they're thinking about if they're going to pursue dance or not pursue dance or whatever.
Right.
And so I was like, you know, Belhaven had a really hard program for dancers specifically because you have to do all of your general ed, you have to do all of the stuff that pertains to your major. You're physically working like 8 hours a day plus rehearsals that are outside, and then you're writing history papers and you're doing all of your worldview for the kids who just came out of high school and don't have those credits yet. And it's like you're sitting at like 18 to 20 credits every semester for all 4 years that you're there. And, you know, it's a pressure cooker experience that I think was probably the most valuable thing that I got out of it because it's what made performing, you know, professional company manageable. Because it's just so chaotic. And you're being pulled in 30 directions and you're working really long hours. So, you know, you're like under fatigue for so long that you're just constantly trying to come up with coping mechanisms on like, okay, how do I manage just the next 2 hours? And then I can worry about everything after that. But I mean, how much like really valuable knowledge we gained just by having to just, you know, pull up, so to speak, and just having to do it. And I think the more you do that, the more you start to have fun. You know, you figure out strategies on like, okay, yes, we're tired, it's hard, there's like 30,000 things to remember. You literally can't manage all of it, but you're also starting to have the fun of being in that space and being with like-minded people who are really trying to go after the stuff that they care about.
Yeah, there is that sense of camaraderie, I think, that comes with being in sort of a pressure cooker together for sure.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, those kind of relationships that we build in those fun moments and crazy moments and whatever. And yeah, I think that's so true that we learn how to have fun in the midst of the challenge, I guess. And that's very well put. I love that. So yeah, I guess we're nearing graduation. What was that transition like into Las Vegas Contemporary?
So I had a very unusual experience. I think my whole career has just been a series of unusual events, but I think I had like 6 or 7, if not maybe 8 acceptance letters to different places by the time that I was graduating.
Oh, cool.
So like I was getting a lot of invitations to move to do dance with various companies of different levels, different kinds. Some of them were faith-based, some of them were not. And Las Vegas Contemporary was the last one. And I think it was Kayla Mitchell again, came up to me one day and was like, you know, there's this little company out in Vegas that I think would fit you really well. And so he put me in contact with Bernard Gaddis, who's the artistic director and co-founder of Las Vegas Contemporary. And we had like one phone call, like January of that last spring, like going into the spring semester before graduation. And that one phone call set me up for an audition, which was an invite. So I went to South Korea for 5 weeks right after, like we literally left the day after graduation.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And then we were in Korea for 5 weeks, and then we came back, was like super toasted. Like I've never been so toasted ever. I don't think
I can
in terms of
only
dancing.
imagine. Yeah.
It was a crazy trip. And my audition was literally like I think I was in Jackson for like 2 days, and then I flew out for the weekend. So I went to Vegas on Friday and I left Sunday evening. And I just sat. I'm not sure that's right, because I think they had their rehearsals early in the week. I think it was maybe like Monday to Wednesday. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Super quick though, either way.
Super quick. It was 3 days. It
And
was a 3 day.
jet-lagged probably already from coming back.
Super jet lagged from Korea, then going from like south to Pacific. So more time.
Yep.
And it was kind of a more involved process of auditioning, where you sit in a company class, you take class, you learn rep, you perform rep, then you sit with the members and you like have discussions about like, what is the life of the company, like what are we about, what is our mission statement, like all of that kind of stuff. And then having like individual dinners with the directors, and it's just a lot more involved than any
like
other audition I've ever
typical
done.
audition. Yeah.
But we got to the end and they were like, we would love to have you. And so I went back to Jackson, was supposed to have like, I think it was like a full 2 weeks to like gather my stuff and move out. And then because nothing goes normal, got kicked out of the place that I was living early. So I think it was like a full week before I was supposed to leave. Like literally they were like, we're calling the cops if you're not out of this place within like 5 hours. It was like one of those crazy moments. So I literally just threw anything I could fit into my car and just left everything else. And I think it was like on my birthday, left Jackson. So I left on my birthday from Jackson to drive to Vegas. And so I drove to Vegas, got to Vegas on July 1st, 2014, and then saw one performance. Like I arrived, they were doing a show at one of the, I think it was West Las Vegas Library, because all the libraries in Vegas have like their own theaters attached, which is kind of cool.
That is really cool.
And
hey, can we get this like
yeah. And
That's
so
awesome.
they were doing a performance, and they did an all men's piece called Fraternus, which was choreographed by Bernard, and then they did Ulysses Dove's Vespers, which was the all female piece with 6 chairs. And both are probably like the most amazing pieces I had ever seen, maybe ever in my life in person.
Wow.
And I remember sitting in the theater going, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
Like there was just so much power on stage, and there was so much intensity, and you could feel that, like the audience was just like the whole time. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, I know I've been invited into this thing, but I don't know if I can do that. And then ended up being with them for 5 full seasons, left in 2019, like May, I think. Okay. May was my last show.
Gotcha.
And
then
got to do all kinds of really cool work while I was there. Lots of classical, contemporary, modern work, and a lot of historical modern work. So got to do Bad Blood by Ulysses Dove, got to do Alvin Ailey's Night Creature. That's like really rare for people to be able to do unless you're with Ailey proper. So like that's a huge privilege. Lisa Monte's Dreamtime, which is one of my favorite pieces still to this day. Cool. And lots of original work by Bernard, and I had actually had the opportunity to do my first full-length ballet on the company as well.
Oh, cool.
18.
Wow.
So there was a lot of really cool opportunity there. But it was also like Vegas is a crazy town and also a pressure cooker experience. You're working like, 70 to 80 hour work weeks every week, and you're dancing 25 to 30 hours, and then you're at the gym for another, 8 to 10 hours, and you're just going, and you kind of have to embrace that craziness.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So
in order to kind of survive and hopefully thrive somewhat as well. Yeah, for sure. So as you look back kind of on that time in Las Vegas or at Belhaven, how do you feel like those experiences maybe shaped now who you are today and as a teacher as well? Well, a huge confidence booster, because you can't do it. You literally can't do it if you don't have a plan. Yeah.
You have to be really good at reading the room. You have to be really good at taking stuff not personally. You have to be willing to have relationships with people that you're ideologically maybe not aligned with. And you have to collaborate. Like, it's a lot of collaboration and finding common ground. And I don't think I would be nearly as proficient in that if it weren't for getting a good base at Belhaven and then just having to do work in Vegas.
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, doing Vegas, like being in Vegas was literally still to this day my favorite city I've ever been in. Like, I love Vegas with such a huge passion of mine, but you have to have a very grounded sense of who you are in order to last in a place like that for any length of time, because it can very easily wear on you. Industry, being a part of any industry is difficult, but dance industry, performance industry, entertainment industry, like when ticket sales are on the line and you don't know if you're going to get paid the next show, like, it brings a certain quality to just diving in head first and just trying it on the first try. Right or wrong, you can always fix it, but make your mistakes as large as possible, because you can fix that. You can't fix someone who's unwilling to try to do something. And that courage and grit, I think, is something that, like, we talk about in dance a lot, about, like, that's a quality you have to have. It's like patience. You only get to practice it by doing it. And if you don't practice it, then you're not going to get better at it.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that applies to so many things, and not just in dance, but that idea of, like, it takes action, it takes actually doing in order sometimes to, one, know if it's possible, again, to maybe redirect if you figure out, like, okay, we need to rework this, or okay, that was the wrong direction, but let's turn and go this way. But I've heard that as well, as, like, sometimes it's better to get moving and to do the thing than to be, like, held back in fear. So I love that as far as not only dance, but in life, like, okay, where do we need to just take action and then, course correct as needed and that kind of thing. Yeah. So I'm curious with 2019, so we were just about to go into the pandemic, but we didn't really know it yet, I guess, in 2019. But so what was your next step in the journey and going into kind of that, again, unprecedented season, I guess?
Yes. Unforeseen everything.
Yeah.
Just, like, it's funny. I was really burnt out by the time that I was leaving. And I just, like, my body, my mind, my spirit, just everything needed a break. I was just like, I am literally toasted to no tomorrow. And I left in May, and I gave myself, like, 8 months to essentially kind of, like, stop. And I didn't do anything dance related. And right as I was starting to train again, the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And then it was like, there was no goal. Like, there's always been a really clear destination for everything that's happened up until this season. And then when this season hit specifically, it was just open-ended. Like, it was just gray everywhere. There was no direction to be had. And so I spent a lot of that spring kind of working on my own. Like I was still giving myself classes, like probably actually giving myself too much credit because it wasn't really class. I was working out and just doing stuff at home.
Yeah.
But you can only do so much on carpet, and it's just not like, it's not the same. There's no community. There's no, just doing it for yourself, I think is like the least fulfilling kind of like
so
way
true.
to experience dance.
Yeah, because
by
dance is so
yourself.
communal, really.
Yeah.
It's very much, I mean, obviously part of it is internal, but there's so much of it that's that dynamic
Yeah.
between people, whether it's in a class or a performance setting or, dancing at a wedding or something, just that community element.
It was really tough. I mean, there was one little silver lining. I got to meet Olga Pachenko, who is a Cirque du Soleil veteran.
Cool.
She's a
okay, and Cirque du
acrobat.
Soleil is like, I remember you kind of got me into Cirque du Soleil, I feel like, in college, that we
Yeah.
were watching some of the videos and stuff. And
Yeah. I was a big, and that's, I mean, really that was the thing that got me into like working on flexibility training and working on the stuff that like years before I knew it, because that was late high school. Like I discovered Cirque back in high school and was like just enamored. I think they were like playing it on Bravo and I like accidentally recorded Alegria or something on it. And then they would, every once in a while, they would have like a marathon of like all of the Cirque shows. So from, I think it was 1999 through like the early 2000s, they had been every new production, they were making documentaries and filming the performances and then showing them. And so because I was always a special interest kid, I would always go to like, Barnes and Noble and go to the special interest and I would buy all the DVDs. So I had this like growing collection of these performances. And Olga Pachenko was one of the hand balancers who she had started when she was really young because her dad was an acrobat coach in Russia. Fast forward all these years later, like watching these performances literally hundreds of times because I was just obsessed with them. Found out that she lived a mile from where I was working in Vegas. And so I shot her an email, and of course nothing's happening because it's COVID.
Right. Yeah.
Everything's shut down. And so I shot her an email and she was like, oh, like, come over and we'll like, we'll talk about our careers and we'll like stretch a little bit and we'll just hang out. And so I went over to her house and, was just like, I'm in this huge transitional moment of like everything that I've been working towards has stopped and I don't know what the next step is. And she was just like, oh, I've been there so many times and like, here, eat another chocolate, like she was literally the coolest human being I've ever met.
That is amazing.
And I still text her every once in a while with the updates of like stuff that I'm doing. But she just had such a calm demeanor. She was like, I know nobody knows what's happening with this. All of my performances are her speaking. She's like, everything that I'm working on has paused and has stopped. And we're, all there is to go back and like keep working on your own stuff. And so kind of around that time, like late spring, one of my friends that I was roommates with had gotten into George Washington University for a master's program.
Okay.
And very nonchalantly was kind of like, I feel like the Lord is leading me out there. Do you want to come with? And as we were at, I was talking with, my family and friends about it, and they were talking about their family and friends about it. We just kept hearing over and over, like, so-and-so's movie, are you going to? And there was this kind of rehashing of this idea that, like, of course you guys would be going together.
Huh.
It was as much leading as I felt that I had. And so I was like, this is the first time I'm just going for no reason.
Yeah.
And not knowing what that was going to mean or what that was going to entail in the long run. We just came to this place of like, okay, we're just going to move. No jobs lined up, no work lined up, no opportunities lined up, the only thing we knew was the master's program, which had nothing to do with me.
Right.
And it was off. Like, it felt awful to not have like any vision for
Sort of
where
any
you're
semblance
going.
of a plan. Yeah.
Yeah. And, most of my life, the way that it's worked out, most of my life, people have always kind of gone, why would you decide that? What would have led you to do this thing? Like, none of the moves that I've ever made have ever made sense to people anyway.
Yeah.
And this one wasn't really like an exception outside of the fact that it was the first time that I didn't have any clear idea of what it was. So we moved. I can't say that first year was very, nothing happened
Yeah.
because everything was still shut down. So people were like, "Oh, how are you liking DC?" And I was like, "I don't know. I've literally not seen any of it."
Yeah, I haven't experienced it yet,
We have no friends. We have no community, no church, no like there's just nothing. Like there's nothing to fall on. So it's just the two of us going crazy, kind of in our own space together. And it was hard. It was just not fun. But then I got a job like right after we moved. I have a tradition of every time I move to somewhere new, which is all the time, that I pick a direction from where I live and I just walk until I don't want to walk anymore. Because you've come across stuff,
Right.
And
yeah,
so,
there's things that you see on foot that you don't really notice.
Yeah,
if you're just driving past
around.
a place.
And so this has become a traditional thing for me. And so I left early one morning, before it got too hot because it was summer. It was August when we got to the DC area. And it's gross, it's humid here. So I got up early and I just started walking and I happened upon this little like grocery store that has like all organic food and stuff. And I went in and I was like, oh, this is like pretty nice. And it's like clean and it's, and I wonder if this would be like a good place to try to just jump in and solidify something for myself because I have no income.
Right,
And,
right.
And so I went and applied and like immediately got hired. And so I worked there for 2 years and like became a manager with their customer service team. It was a really nice place to work. And I just then started getting this like feeling that like as things started to open back up, like you need to go do something else. And I took a trip back to Vegas and it was the first like personal vacation I'd ever taken in my life. So I flew back to Vegas and then jumped to California to see Caleb and Deborah Riley, who were also Belhaven graduates and some of my best friends that live in LA now.
Yeah.
And so I like took a little puddle jumper and visited them in California and then came back to Vegas. And there was this consensus kind of through the conversations that I was having at this point in time of people going, it's so great that like you're doing well, but like what are you getting out of this move? Like what are you currently gleaning from this? Because it just sounds like you're sitting on the side rather than really participating and making something happen. And I think that came up in conversation like probably half a dozen times.
Oh wow. Became a theme.
Or more. Yeah, it became this like that I'm hearing it in the back of my head over and over and over again. And so I got back and started looking up dance schools basically in the area, studios. Wasn't in any kind of shape to like step back into performing for myself. Like I was just not there. But I was like, well, what if I started doing some teaching? And that was kind of in the back of my head. And then I sent out my resume to like maybe 3 places. And Ovations was the one that I literally sent it out like at midnight, or it was like really late, absurdly late. I literally had a response by 7:00 the following morning that was like, we would love to have an interview with you, And so I came to the studio and, they gave me a little tour and then we sat down and like the interview literally was, I think, supposed to be like maybe like 45 minutes to an hour. And we ended up talking for like 2.5 to almost 3 hours. Just
those are
talking
some of the
about
best moments. Yeah.
And it was like, I imagine that it was probably like a lot of self-reflection happening in the moment of like, I've been able to do all of these things in the last like 10 years of my life. You know, I within 6 years went from complete novice to a graduate going into professional work, had a solid handful of years doing really hard, really good choreography, working with some incredible people, to then hit this, like, all of that work just...
Right.
And I'm just sitting with that in here, and I'm not really unpacking that with people to sit down in a room and start to actually, like, kind of go through the files of your career and, like, the experiences and the people. And I think, like, fleshed out some things for me in that time. And I think that they recognized that. They went, okay, like, it sounds like you're in a place that you're ready to step into this other world. Was I actually ready for it? Probably not. It's teaching is a completely different skill set.
It
and
is.
Teaching, like, you know, I have kids as young as 5 all the way through high school. And if you remember from my time at Belhaven, I've never been a person who was like, I want to work with kids.
Right,
Like, I was
right.
very adamant about how I didn't want to do that. And you never know. But it's funny because I know even further back, like during my time out, I was going to a church in Michigan before I started doing all this dance stuff. I went on a retreat, and we were just talking about, like, you know, what are things that you feel like the Lord is trying to show you that pertains to, like, what your calling is. And I just remember reading the passages out of, I think it's Exodus with Bezalel and Oliab, and the anointing that the Lord was putting on them. And somewhere in there, there's a breakdown of, like, not only are you going to be, like, gathering and bringing people together for the building of the tabernacle, right? But we're going to be teaching. You are going to be teaching them in various crafts, not just the one craft, but various crafts. And in teaching the various crafts, you're going to now have a community of people who can build the things that I need.
That's
Very
cool. I
real
don't know if I've
paraphrase.
ever really, like, seen that there before. So that's really cool to go back.
I'm sorry. I'm going to detour for a hot second and see if I can find that, because you know what? I'm actually going to grab my physical one. This is like the one that is, like,
Oh yeah,
destroyed through the years.
been through it.
It has seen many things. Okay, so this is Exodus 35, 30 to 30, where are you? I guess 35. So this is Bezalel and Oliab, son of
No worries.
Ahishamek. Sorry.
Sounds good to me.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Of
Some
the
names,
tribe
it's
of
like-
Dan, the ability to teach others. And this is the part that I circled. The ability to teach others. He has filled them with the skill to do all kinds of work as craftsmen, designers, embroiderers in blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, of fine linen, and weavers, all of them master craftsmen and designers.
So good.
And I remember being really enamored with this idea that my art was eventually going to be less self-serving. It wouldn't be me, but it would be me handing things to the next generation. And I think, I'm sure that this happens to everyone at some point, where you spend your whole young adult life really focused on self and really focused on you trying to step up to the thing
Yes.
that you're doing. And then you pass this threshold, and I don't really know, I'm sure it's different for everyone in terms of, like, age of when this happens, but, like, you step across this threshold into a space where you're no longer trying to do that for yourself. And then you look at the whole picture, and then you try to hand it to someone else. Because if you were to continue to try to do that as a self-serving thing, I don't think it would be nearly as effective. And I'm sure that that's, like, kind of a normal thing that happens as you get further into adulthood.
Right. Yes.
For people who, have families, like that goes right into their children. Well, I don't have children, but I have inherited hundreds of them.
Yes, exactly.
Like we have like 400 students at our studio. So it's like, you're being handed, and again, like, I don't know how to talk to a 5-year-old. Like, that has been a whole process in and of itself to like learn how to engage in such a different way.
Right.
That I didn't dance as a kid. So I'm creating raw experiences from nothing, and I'm building along the way. I'm just taking tons of feedback that I get from students and from parents and from, the fellow my coworkers. Like, we're just constantly building something that, like, I don't even know what it is. But it's been, what a change in thought process, and, trying to educate my kids on, like, who is Martha Graham? I hold up a picture and they're like, who's that? And I'm like, this is Martha Graham. Like, you need to know who this is, I've lined my walls with photos of current choreographers that I think are important for students to know about, and kind of like major figures, but also like major works. So it's like, there's George Balanchine, the person, and then there's Ruby's right next to it.
Right. That's really neat. I like that.
There's Anne-Therese de Keersmacher and Rosas, Dance Rosas. There's William Forsythe and, The Thrill of Exactitude.
So they can kind of be making those connections.
They're making those connections. But then I also have, like, I do have Cirque up there too. Like, I have some other stuff that's up there. Putting strong images into young people where they look at it and they're like, I never would have really thought of dance leading me there. Because that was my whole experience with learning and becoming a dancer myself. Was I saw this thing, was enamored by it, and then I just started investigating it myself. And that led me into the space of dance, and I think gave me the fluidity to be able to survive the landscape of it. And so bringing that sense of, this is what high-level dancing looks like, feels like, can be, depending on where you are, knowing that this is also just one perspective. Get another perspective. Keep finding new perspectives on the art, because, I got to do a lot of really cool historical works that not a lot of people get to do. Sometimes in a company with a lot of reputation, but not a lot of financial backing. And so, I have friends who are doing far less work, far more, synergistic, creative, improvisation in a park somewhere for some weird little festival, but they're getting paid.
Yeah.
They're able to physically survive off of that, and they're not having to find multiple other side jobs to do that. So what's more important to you? I remember people sharing, like, about my experiences in Vegas and the struggles of some of the stuff that is happening in Vegas, and people going, I would never do that. Like, they were like, I would never choose to do what you're doing, which I think at the time I kind of prided myself on a little bit, where I was like, oh, well, that makes me, in my own eyes, I'm doing something special because of that. But there was also cost that comes with that, and lots of, it's tough. Oh man, people can be mean. Dance world can be really harsh, can give you a really negative outlook on your physical facility. It can really eat at you in a lot of ways. And, people who, I've had the pleasure to work with, like, the self-destructive behaviors that we embrace because of those things are really, it's everyone's really surviving in that. So I think it's good to keep an open an open hand and an open mind that like just because that one dance experience there was that way doesn't mean that all dance experiences are that.
That's
and
good.
really one of the biggest reasons I left the company at the time was it was affecting my relationship with the Lord. I was starting to see and interpret the Lord as being like an abusive parent who like sends out his kids basically to like be mauled by the world and then not come back for them. And so when I realized that I was starting to think, because all of my relationships were transactional in that way.
Like being used up, kind of.
Yeah. And I just got to a place where I was like, I love the work that I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, I love being here. I love the work that I'm doing. And this isn't like to slam them, you know, like
Right.
it's one of the things that happens when you're in a high functioning industry, you know, like the arts
that can
industry.
happen in so many industries. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, and it happens in every job. I have yet to have a job where there isn't some form of this that occurs, because wherever there's people, there's gonna be that, you know. And so it's really not a knock on them specifically, because everywhere is going to have their problems, you know. But it's how do you know when to stop?
Right. Kind of a self-awareness, self-reflection, you know, and kind of checking in also, with the Lord too. And I feel like I loved what you were saying about, you know, different people may feel like, oh, I would have never been able to do that or whatever, and how I feel like we also each have our own unique makeup and design from God, and so like where we can thrive, at least for a season or whatever, is going to be different for different people. And but I think that's so good. You know, how have you maybe worked through burnout over the years? And I know, like you said, the end of that season.
It's been a learning process. I mean, I think one of the outcomes of, which kind of goes back to what I was talking about, like making big mistakes. Like, I think learning how to deal with this kind of stress is going to be different for everyone. And I think in my case, I went through a period of substance abuse that was, you know, self-medicating.
Yeah.
That was really frustrating, and really when I realized that this was something I was specifically doing to cope with the stress. I don't know how to say, like, I think I felt disappointed in myself, because I was recognizing that like I didn't have the internal strength to continue, but I also knew that like if I were to continue to push it, it was gonna go somewhere really bad.
Right, yeah.
And I remember it was actually really, I think, a blessing, but Stephen Wynn came through Vegas for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't even remember
Shout
what
out
it was.
Stephen Wynn.
Yeah, I know. He came through like right as I was preparing to make this decision about leaving. And he was like, okay, well, like, let's get together. We'll grab a drink and we'll just like have a conversation. And we talked for hours about everything that had been occurring and what I was feeling and how I was taking it, and my inability to like function, feel my way through the growing chaos of the situations that I was in. And he was just so calm and like, it sounds like this is exactly what you need to be doing. Like, you know, if you need permission from someone to like step down from that and give yourself the room, like, fine, like, give yourself the room. It sounds like you need it, and you know you need it, so just take the time.
Oh, that's really powerful. Yeah, just to have somebody that's like a mentor figure be able to say like, it's okay, you know.
Yeah. And to, you know, I know, like, you know, Caleb Mitchell's not unaware of this, you know, like any of the instructors that we've had, all of them understand that this is like a part of it, and they have overcome and I'm sure have had their own seasons of like, I have to step down. I need to shift over this way. I need to make a necessary change to ensure that like the root doesn't die.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes.
You have to have some kind of self-preservation mechanism in there that's functioning. And he was like, it sounds like you've done everything to the best of your ability in the way that you can, and it's time to like maybe set this down and let it go. I just remember that being a particularly like, felt like a warm embrace, you know,
Yes.
of the Lord being like, you can make this decision and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my head, I was somehow failing God by saying, I can't anymore.
Wow.
And that was like super gross.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially because so many people too, I think I was really at the time living, I've talked to my mom a lot about, I have this kind of built-in people-pleasing nature to me. And I've really started to say no. I've really started to say no to it as I've gotten older.
Yeah. That's
And
hard,
because
but so good.
Yeah, I felt like I was letting all these people down in that process too. It wasn't just like me, you know, failing my responsibilities to the Lord, but it was also me failing my responsibilities to all of the people who had given me all this information to see me thrive, and then it not happening in the way that I thought that it should. And so it got to the place where it just needed to stop. Finding other things to be involved with, I think, has been important. Investing in my life, like,
Yes.
because I've been transient my whole life. This is the first time where it's like I've intentionally been buying stuff that is more permanent, because I think I am just in that space where it's like, I don't have to be transient. And if I'm going to be transient, I need to have a place to come home to every time, like that's consistent.
Yeah.
And I, for the first time in my life, have like stuff that is like,
yes, like your super cool
home.
bookshelves. Yes,
like,
exactly.
you know, that's like a home, you know.
Yes. Place
And
to really
not,
land in.
yeah, and not feeling guilty about having that. Learning to build community, learning to continue to put yourself out there. Obviously, like, I'm really passionate about my students now, and it's been a rough 3 years learning how to like communicate with all of these different personalities and you know, young people, but I think they've started to catch the vision of my experience and the value that I can bring to them, even though sometimes I have to be hard on them because, you know, that's how it works. That's how, you know, you have to have a little bit of that push in order to ensure that they continue to move forward.
Right.
Because so many of them won't move forward on their own. They don't have that sense of centering yet.
Kind of a theme that I've seen come up recently a lot is the idea that like God invites us into rest, and that's so countercultural to what we're swimming in all the time. How's your view of dance changed through all this?
I mean, I maybe briefly touched on this in terms of training. Like, we've made the flip where I'm absorbing to now I'm freely letting that fullness spill back out, you know. I got to my max capacity, and then it's just now going out to others, or I hope that it is.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the goal.
But in terms of like the art itself and like what dance brings, I have always my whole life, I have always viewed art as, if the work is the end result in and of itself, great. But if the work isn't really touching people, touching lives, bringing awareness, bringing sometimes criticism, it has to do something.
Yeah.
Right? Art has to move people if it's going to be effective as a tool. You know, we were living in the postmodern movement where everything's getting deconstructed, you know, all these systems are built up and now they're all being broken down and inverted and turned inside out and this and that. And I don't think that within the term, like the realm of art, like that is totally fine. Like I love that. I've been a huge supporter of all of that introspection and like trying to figure out why is this effective and all of that. But we're in a weird place right now where art has become very sterile, and it's because it's only being used to make money. It's really lacking in oomph, in effectiveness and power. And I refuse to believe that like that should be the real end goal of any artistic endeavor.
Seems like that kind of opens up even more opportunity, especially for like faith-based artists to, you know, bring something of substance and yes, like I think that's actually
and
really
push boundaries.
beautiful.
Like I really, like I have always, you know, I remember even back at Belhaven getting into arguments with other students or faculty over this idea of art being really narrow. And one of my, I think my biggest criticisms of the church in general, which is why I like primarily absorb secular artwork for the sake of a better term, or an easy digestible term, because I know there's a lot of people who don't like those terms. But art that specifically doesn't have anything to do with the church, quote unquote, still says something about either man's relationship to God, man's relationship to himself, man's relationship to nature. All of those things are always going to be talked about. So if you're not looking for it, then you wouldn't know. Or if you haven't been educated on how art works, how to read it, how to glean from it, how to interpret it, if you haven't had that experience, then I think you're missing out on a lot of what the world has to say about those things.
Yes.
And, you know, we know from scripture that if Christians are really not effective in their jobs of preaching the things that they should be teaching, the world's going to do it for them, which is actually kind of a weird comfort. I don't know, like because I'm definitely not like an evangelist type. But I constantly throughout my life have people go, there's something about your process that isn't like everyone else. And then I get to have a conversation with them about those things. I also like am a big believer that like those conversations should happen at the dinner table, you know, like face to face. Like I'm really disinterested in online discourse at this point.
Right. It gets very disconnected from that humanness, you know, where we have those commonalities and, you know, can look each other in the eye and
So I don't know. Like I feel like if you're a believer artist, you know, you should be willing to push the boundaries and make like a mess, you know. Do stuff that's challenging. Talk about subject matter that is hard for people. In more nuanced conversation on topics, and give grace, like in a fuller sense, you know. Be willing to become someone else for the sake of someone else. Get out of your own ideas. If you're not sitting with people who don't think like you, then intentionally seek out those conversations. And because you might find that, you know, the things that you think aren't really as solid as you think they are. And that's something that I've brushed up against a lot in my life, where every time I'm like, oh, a pillar, and then it's like a toddler comes through and just knocks all the Legos down, and I go, okay, maybe that wasn't like the thing,
right?
And I was putting it up as a thing, you know, as a thing.
Yeah, like in general, are just trying to be open and have conversations and get to know people and ask questions and be able to see people, and then also be open to learning throughout our lives, you know, and continuing to take things to the Lord and like, what are the things that are our own constructs that we've just put up, you know, versus what is actually like God is saying, like, this is your solid foundation, you know what I mean? Those pillars. And I love how art creates space for conversation when done in a, you know, certain way. So I think that can be really really powerful. I'm curious just to hear from you as we're moving towards wrapping up, whether it's someone who's early on in their career or just in general, do you have something that is on your heart to share with other artists today?
I feel like I just gave the spiel to my, faith believing, artists,
yes.
creatives, like that was the spiel I just gave to my students, because I mentioned that this is what actually derailed my class yesterday. I mentioned that we were doing this today, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, can we listen?" So I'm addressing for my kids.
Perfect. Hi, students.
Don't know. You may not have really heard me talk about my faith in these terms, which isn't even like super deep right now, and this isn't that conversation, but like, like to have the understanding that like lots of people do lots of things for different reasons, and it just so happens that I really heavily feel like my walk with dance is a direct outcome of my faith walk.
That's good.
That is not something to be concerned with in the day-to-day of what we do when we're in class. Like, don't think that I'm coming in with an agenda outside of giving you a good dance education, because that's what I've been hired to do. Like, if you have interest about the complexities of the other stuff that we're kind of like, touching on, like, I'm willing to have those conversations, but it's okay. Like, it's a relaxed thing. It's not a, it doesn't have to be this thing you have to like skirt around, because I don't approach my life that way, at least anymore, where I try not to skirt around things. I would rather just openly say it and be like, this is what it is. And you as young people, you're in the perfect space for that, because you're already testing those boundaries for yourself. So like, if you want to have conversations about that kind of stuff, have them. No one's gonna like get after you or be like, no, like, unless it's in ballet class and we should be doing tendus at the bar.
Yeah.
Then I might shoot you down.
There's a time and a place.
Yeah. But I do want people to understand that this is like, these two things have coincided throughout my entire journey and have dictated huge swings on the decisions that I have made and the things that I have done in that process. And that it's a complex, nuanced conversation that takes a lot of investigation in order to really get something out of. So don't take it at face value. I say this because we live in DC, and there's a lot of people who like to shove you into boxes when they assume or associate you with A, B, or C. And that's just the culture here. So like, just for myself, like I'm saying, like, it's a bigger conversation than what we're having here.
Right.
And you are welcome to never have that conversation, to never initiate that, because I will never initiate that, because that's not my job. My job is to not initiate that conversation in my workplace. Like, it's just not what I'm there for. But, people sometimes are curious, and that is fine,
Yeah, they're getting a little different side of you on this on this podcast.
Yeah,
which is cool.
yeah.
I mean, it's all part of who you are, and your experience and your journey. But yes, we kind of have different spaces for different aspects of this conversation and stuff, which is cool. But I love what you're saying about it's so easy, no matter where you are, but probably especially in DC or in these big cities. But like, the boxing people in a certain category or certain labels and things like that. And it is really, I think, powerful to say, hey, like, I want to know you as a person and not just make assumptions about, who you are or what you believe, that kind of thing. And I feel like that's a good theme in this conversation is, hey, let's get out, let's have conversations with people in our lives and, meet new people, get to extend this beyond, the surface level, I guess. Hi students, if you're watching. So cool. I love that you're getting to pour in the things that you've received, to be able to give those back out to the next generation. And also your choreography, which we didn't even get to dive into a whole lot.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's like a whole nother.
The really short choreography shtick is I basically choreograph. Each class that I teach gets a end of the year recital piece. So, I mean, the babies, they do, you know,
Yeah.
tendu, point the foot, plie, it's like
Exactly.
nothing
Little
because
pointers.
that's all they can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, little jumps, little prances, skip in a circle,
The cutest. Like they can literally stand
really
there and I'm going to be
are.
like, oh, so cute.
They really are. They have won me over, and I have surprisingly won them over as well. So
Wow, that's awesome.
most of them. Yeah, I'll say most of them.
Yes.
My older students, I have definitely been kind of exercising some of my creative chops with them. So when I teach modern, I specifically am teaching Horton technique because that's what I was given through much of my training. And that's, you're going to teach what you know,
Right.
You're not going to not teach what you know. So I teach Horton in modern, which I think is an eye-opening experience for everyone because it's so exact and it's hard.
Yes.
It just doesn't feel good. It looks very clean though. So it's really easy to tell if you're doing it right or wrong because the lines and the shapes are 90-degree angles.
Right. And it's
a straight line
strengthening as well.
It's a strengthening thing.
Yes.
So it's a really good challenge for all of my kids who have taken it. So I usually choreograph with that in mind, that if they've been working on Horton technique all year long, I'm going to give them stuff that reinforces that. But I've started to really tap into like thematic stuff. So I was able to do a really cool piece with our advanced point girls last year and some of my advanced contemporary modern kids, where it was a piece on angels and demons and how they're the opposites of the same coin. They're really two sides of the same coin. And they really I think ate that idea up because they recognize the complexity that that metaphor is really nuanced. You can see someone as an evil person, but you can also see them as a good person. From your perspective, you might think you're doing the good thing, but you're really, in someone else's eyes, doing a negative thing. And how everyone's fighting for power, like that
Yeah.
this idea of conflicting power struggle is kind of throughout. So I've been able to tap into, I think, some thematic stuff for like the high school crowd that they really like. I've had absurd amount of conversations about the preppy style and what that meant when we were in like junior high and high school versus like their interpretation of what that looks like in 2025. And I think that has been a huge talking point for most of my like late elementary to early junior high, low high school kids.
Yeah. That's
Mostly
so funny.
junior high. But that has been a huge topic of conversation. So I have 2 pieces this year that are specifically on that idea.
Cool.
But
That's
I'm
fun.
also I'm building a library of performances at the studio. So I think I have like 40 different performances now and documentaries on famous dance history, the Royal Ballet, Ohad Nareen. Like I have all these different things that I'm showcasing and being able to show the kids. So like this is what you don't have to do this, but you should be working towards the freedom that these people have.
Right. In their movement and yeah.
Just getting them to go, okay, well, we're going to do this like jazz funk piece and we're going to borrow from this and we're going to use this as a template and then we're going to like create our own thing. I think that has been a really different approach because we're a competition studio. So most of the kids are used to kind of a competition style of performing.
That's really a fun mashup then for them to get to experience both.
Yeah, to go from like, so you think you could dance to Ailey style,
Right. Exactly.
that kind of influence, that kind of, a ballet is just the technique. It doesn't have to be the choreography. And educating parents about that has been quite the journey as well because they don't know. They don't have a framework. So when they see something on stage that doesn't match their idea of what the kids should be learning in class, there's like a disconnect there that happens. And that was one of the big, like my first year, there was this big criticism that like some of the parents felt dissatisfied about what I had done with their kids because my definition of choreography is different than their definition of what they should be seeing in the class, which is what they get. Like, you know, when you're in a ballet class at a ballet bar, you're going to do ballet bar. When you're in a ballet center, you're going to do ballet center. When you're doing modern floor work, you're going to do modern floor work. But when it comes to choreography, it is a blending of that. And that's my contemporary background. Everything that I did.
Because contemporary is this blend of
everything.
All the tools that you've been given. Yes.
And so I think and I'm also the first male in the studio.
Yeah, so that like comes with its own...
And it comes with its own deals because my, you know, a lot of the kids were like really scared the first year. And, you know, I've had teachers who, you know, have transitioned from performing professionally to teaching. And those first few years are rough, you know. Yeah. I'm sure you can come up with a few names of people who had to work through how to reorganize their thinking. Because when you're in a professional setting, you're just do it, get it done. Go. And nobody, it's like if I say something, you know, that's a little bit hot, it's not personal. It's just because we have to get through this checklist of thing. Yeah.
Yes. And learning how to reframe almost into a different
completely
setting.
Reframe.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. So good. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you got to share a little about choreography because I was like, I know that's a passion as well. So yeah. Well, this has been so fun getting to just catch up with you, Matt, and like get filled in on the last, how many years has it been? It's like a long time, over 10 years or something.
Oh, yeah, 11. Well, when did you graduate?
Because I graduated in 2012. So for me, it's
gosh, okay.
I know. For me, it's what, 14?
You were 2 years ahead of me.
13 years? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. But so good to just, it's so funny, I think, these days with technology, because it's kind of like we sort of keep tabs on each other. I'm like, I kind of know what you've been up to, but it's really, really nice to just dive in a little bit more personally into getting to hear directly from you and not just, you know, seeing pictures or posts or whatever. So.
Oh, I know. Honestly, that's what my big gripe with social media is. It's so passive. It's supposed to be something you are actively engaged in, and the truth is that you're just not.
Right. It is very passive. So this is the kind of thing that I love, getting to chat and getting to actually connect one-on-one, and excited for people who were maybe part of our overlapped with our classes, you know, get to catch up with you through this a little bit too. And y'all reach out to Matt, say hey. And speaking of, what is the best way that people can connect with you?
So you can, my Instagram handle is after 39 Crimson Lines. So you can find me there. I don't really have anything up there, but you can contact me through there. Otherwise, reaching me at Matthew initial P at ovationstudios.com is the easiest way to get a hold of me email wise. That's my work email. And awesome. I do all of my dance correspondence there.
Perfect. And the last question, just for fun, is what's one of your favorite things right now?
So, like, I've become a plant dad.
Aww. I was noticing some plants behind you.
Yes. So
which are so cool.
My little tour. I have
we get the plant tour.
Several plants that are
they just
all
keep
different
coming.
Varieties. Yeah. I have a bunch. I also have a worm bin, and there's actual worms in there, and they do composting indoors for me. So
that is so cool.
Yeah. So I have a little plant family.
Aww.
And that's like my one of my hobbies currently.
Yes. Okay, I thought of one other question, just because I was like, we're doing this series on like Belhaven alum. So do you have a favorite story that stands out to you from your time at Belhaven?
There's like so many different like vibes of memories. Like there's some like, like I did 4 dance finals and, a lit, final all in one day. And then went and performed Mr. Mitchell's solo. He had choreographed on Rhiannon my freshman year, but I performed it at a chapel thing.
Oh,
and that was
wow.
all in one day. And I got
goodness.
done. I was so like whirlwind. Everything was a whirlwind that day. And I probably hadn't slept in like 2 days, you know, because finals was
Prepping
always
for
just
finals. Yes.
yeah, it was rough. And I just remember sitting in the locker room. They have like a little shower in there.
Yeah.
And I like sat in there and was just like crying at the end of my day because I was like, I am so tired and I hurt so bad because I literally just don't. I couldn't feel anything because I had just been going all day long, and that was one that just like popped into my head.
Yeah, there are definitely those kind of memories. Yeah, staying up all night to write a dance history paper.
Oh, I wrote a 10-page dance history. Yeah, it was dance history. Yeah. I don't remember if it was 1 or 2, but it was a research paper, and I wrote the entire thing in one night. It was the worst decision of my life, but
Exactly. And then trying to go to ballet class in the morning, and it's like,
oh yeah,
yes,
you're
totally.
like,
don't do it.
I
Don't do it, friends. If you are currently in school, like,
don't do it.
Plan ahead. We urge you.
Yes, best advice: work on it in small chunks. Even if it's one paragraph every day, just write one paragraph every day, and then put it aside.
Yep.
Like at least it gets done. Like, and not on the due date. Like,
yep.
So much stress.
Amen. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so fun. Well, I'm so thankful for you, Matt. Thank you for taking the time to do this and being part of this series. Welcome. And so grateful for, I heard this term commemorative friendship, but like the friendship that we had, and also getting to reconnect now is just such a gift. So thank you just for who you are and continuing to pour out. Thank you all so much for listening to the Creative Impact Podcast. The music for the show was produced by Michael Cash. Until next time, remember that you were designed to create. You were made to inspire. Continue living with purpose and making an impact. I'll see you next time, friends.